I will try here to put together, to build a case for digital literacy and well-being, and try to put together some research results and a model of digital literacy. Some of the work has been done with Ronnie Aviram and Yair Hamburger here, and we'll build it from there into the understanding of how this is linked into digital literacy. I'll start by saying that digital literacy is the source of frustration for most of the users of today, because you usually know the situation, are aware of the situation that you want to take this Coca-Cola cane out of the machine, and what you get is a biscuit or something else, that because you don't know how to operate the machine. Because for me, digital literacy is like a sixth sense. It's something that you do intuitively without kind of cognitive mediation of what you do. It's an automatical response, automatical action that you are doing. And in this lecture I will, and when do we use digital literacy? We use it in basically three situations as scholars I'm talking about, but also as users of environments. We use it when we work with digital environments, such as when you try to take a Coca-Cola cane out of the machine, when we drive our car, and if anywhere we do, when you work with word processor or whatever. We need it when we do effective and meaningful writing, meaning to know how to build a PowerPoint presentation without losing your authoritative position. It's an art to know how to use the technology. And the last and the probably most important use of digital literacy is when we create meaningful outcomes by using sources, copy-pasting, or writing, or building our knowledge in digital environments. I will present here a theoretical or kind of a conceptual framework for digital literacy and I will claim that digital literacy in fact... What?
Digital literacy.
Yes, but...
Big example.
What was the example?
An example of illiterate.
Smartphone started.
Oh, okay. I will present to you a framework, a theoretical framework that basically suggests that that human thinking in the digital world can be reduced into 6 skills, only 6. Try to challenge this claim as I talk. Only 6 skills. It's a model that I was working on, and then it was further elaborated in a work we've done with Ronnie Aviram, and then tested in a work we've done with Yair Hamburger here. And I'll discuss briefly each of those 6 skills which are included in this theoretical framework of digital literacy. The first one I call reproduction skill, which means the ability to use pre-existing elements, shreds of information, and build a new entity out of them. This is not plagiarism or copy-pasting or whatever. This is a piece of art. But in fact, it's a copy-pasting of elements. It's a work by Andy Warhol. But we are doing it all the time when we are using information, but to do it in an ethical or legal way, you need to be an artist to know how to actually reuse elements. The other one is a photovisual skill, which means I'm able to understand messages that are being presented in a pictorial, graphical way. When you drive a car and you see road signs, information is being presented to you in a graphical way. Okay? Same thing for operating a machine by learning environment or word processor or whatever. The other one is, which for me is the most important one, is the information skill, the ability not to trust information, to test information, to criticize, to think on information in a critical way. which is a skill which is not straightforward. I will show some research results which are very grave, showing very bad ideas about what's going on. The other one is socio-emotional, the ability to communicate effectively in a non-face-to-face situation. You know that most people do not tell you the truth about themselves when you talk to them in a non-face-to-face situation. This is just a small joke about old man pretending to be a young girl or whatever. And the real-time skill is the ability to process parallel floods of information at the same time, like a pilot, like a cook, like once George Bush said, I can speak and chew a chewing gum at the same time, trying to convince us that he can be a president because of that. But this is a skill that is being increasingly challenging because of the speed of those machines. When you play a game, a computer game, a car racing game, you operate at the same time so many tools like the stick, the joystick, you look at the map on the screen, you have to make decisions. There is a parallel thinking, I call it real-time thinking, and the last one is a branching or a non-linear thinking, meaning I am able to build my knowledge not from a linear representation of information, but from accessing shreds of information that have been accessed on the internet or in different sources, and then I put them together. Now I must say that from the 6 skills that for me build digital literacy, only one is new. Try to guess which one. This is the socio-emotional. Because 50, 100 years ago, you could not communicate with people in a non-face-to-face situation and then have to understand what's going on in such a way that is going on today. All the rest of those skills existed before. Critical thinking of information, branching, building information from different sources, all that existed before. But with digital technologies, this has become a real challenge, which is like a critical skill to overcome the hurdles that await you on the digital world. Now, to test this model, there was a paper by Yair and myself that was published in 2004 that tested this model. What is the application of this model among people of different age groups? And I will try to present here results from 4 of the skills: the branching, photovisual, information in reproduction. At the year 2002, when we collected the information, the internet was not yet the major source of information, of work environment, etc. This was very you had to have a very technical control of the environment. So photovisual and branching at that time were more kind of skill or of technical skills, whereas reproduction was the ability to use text, move it from place to place, and remake the meaning of text by playing with the text. This is a more creative thinking about text, about elements, whereas information is a critical thinking about information. There are different skills that belong to completely different worlds. I'll show here research results that were collected from 3 groups of people, all from the same region, from the Higher Galilee in Israel. There were high school children, college students, and adults with a bachelor degree at least, between 30 and 40 years old, all had good control of technology. And we tested them by giving them tasks, real-life tasks, that they had to do, and then with 3 different referees, using guidelines, we graded their performance. And what we saw are 2 opposite trends. For the photovisual and the branching, skill, we saw that, as expected, the young people were better than the old one. You see a very clear trend of high school students on the left performing much better than the adults for branching thinking skill and for the photovisual skill. By the way, the skills were very simple to decipher software that you had never worked with. For the photovisual, and branching was to plan a trip to a country you had never been in on the internet. Now, but you see, the performance was completely as expected. Young people do better than old people, right? But when we go to the critical and creative skills of critical thinking of information, about information, and copy-pasting elements from a pre-existing text to give it a new meaning, that was a task for reproduction, then you see the exactly opposite. The older people were much better than the younger people, and then suddenly the big story of the immigrants and the natives begins to change. I don't like this term. I think it's a wrong term. It depends on which situation. Here I show you that when we talk about serious things, serious using the information on the internet or skills like this, the older people perform much better. Then what's going on through time? The question is, does these skills change over time? And that's a big question. So what we have done, 5 years later, with a colleague of mine from the university, Yoram, we went to the same people, not to the same group of people. The same people, we managed to allocate. These were members of kibbutzim and the villages in the north. It was easy. Small communities, easy to come back to the same people. We were able to allocate the same people, 80% of them, and do the same kind of tasks, not the same task exactly. And we saw what's happening after 5 years. And what happened after 5 years, we saw two very fascinating changes. First is closing the gap in usability perspective. See what happened. In the red you see 2007, in the blue you see the results from 2002. What you see is that the adults that were not good in, let's say, the photovisual, not good in performing with photovisual in the year 2002, they almost closed the gap compared to the young people. Almost close the gap. In other words, if you let them 5 more years without changing the software, maybe they would become even. On the other hand, we found that the gap in critical thinking about information and the gap of using text in a smart way to copy-paste element to create a new meaning to it, what we call reproduction thinking, the gap expanded. Instead of being closed, we saw an expansion of the gap. So those young people that we think these are the users of the future, I may say they might be the idiots of the future. It depends on the situation. It depends on which skills they are able to control. And when we look at this data, come to mind the question, what is the reason, what is the factor that affect this change over time? There are two factors, usually two explanations. One says the age. Those young people, those natives, their brains are wired differently, which I think is nonsense. And the other one says it's experience. Even if you let me, test me, give me a chance to program my video, I will finally be able to do it. This is something I can never succeed. Okay? In other words, it's a question of experience. As adults, we don't have time to spend our life around Facebook and upload our pictures. We have other things to do. But it's not a question of different brains or whatever. This is a skill that is being acquired through experience. And these are two. I'm not going to get into details of this test, but we were able to show that experience is, by having a control group in this follow-up study, we're able to show that experience is the factor that controls the ability to perform with different digital skills. And now, after presenting this, I want to go to the next stage of this presentation and try to build the case for digital literacy, satisfaction, self-efficacy, and well-being. Try to put it together and show to you that digital literacy, in fact, I will claim that that having a good control on digital literacy skill is a precondition for well-being on the internet, for self-efficacy, well-being, and satisfaction. So I'll build it step by step. The first step is digital literacy and satisfaction. There are lots of studies, like this of Gui in Argentine, that show that users who master digital literacy skills usually report higher satisfaction when they work in digital environments. It's something that you would expect. You have a good control, you're happy with it, but satisfaction is not enough. It's not a condition for well-being. Second thing is, after I'm satisfied, I'm willing to integrate technology into my life. One of the examples is the work I've done with, teachers. This paper with Orita Vidov, Ungar Avidov, we've tested the willingness of teachers to integrate technology into their life. And we are all aware of Rogers' model of innovation diffusion that shows that discusses the diffusion of innovation, technology or not, into an organization. And we were able to show that the innovators show the highest level of self-efficacy, again, kind of expected, and there was a significant correlation between digital literacy level of all those 6 skills and innovators. In other words, those who are willing to adapt and integrate technologies into their work are those who have high level of digital literacy. One of the terms that is being used today is called TPAC, Technological Pedagogical Content Knowledge, which is used as a measure for the willingness or the readiness of an organization or a teacher to integrate technology into their work. And again, we have shown that among teachers with a high TPAC level, those who have a high level of technological knowledge, their willingness to integrate technology into work is higher. And among teachers with high TPAC level, there is a good correlation with digital literacy and self-efficacy. And the last thing I want to go into, I think it's the last thing, is give one example of the places where well-being of people on the internet is being very much hampered or harmed. Because and I think this is one of the things we are going to discuss here, how do we make producers of environment, digital environment, make them protecting people from being harassed on the internet. One of the examples is Facebook. We know today from research that cyberbullying, Facebook is probably the best example for that, cyberbullying is very common among youngsters. But we found that from this research, at least not me, Kokinos et al., there are lots of research information that people who master digital literacy skills are better immune from cyberbullying. So if I am digitally literate, it is harder for you to attack me on the internet. I'm more immune to that situation. And now I come to digital literacy and well-being, and suggest that there are many studies, like Dane et al., that suggest that digital literacy is directly related to internet well-being. So there was self-efficacy, content. I'm happy with the environment. I have self-efficacy with that. I'm willing to integrate the technology, and in the end, there is a linkage between digital literacy skills and well-being on the internet. So, putting it all together is, I claim that mastering digital literacy skills is a basic condition for internet well-being.
What is internet well-being?
That's the whole thing that we are trying to discuss here.
It's not personal well-being.
What?
It is.
No, internet well-being, I mean, I'm talking about the person, okay, I probably used the wrong term, sorry. Well-being on the internet, a personal well-being on the internet. Good that you raised the question. I'm not sure I know how to define well-being very well, I'm sorry. But personal well-being on the internet, as I saw in many of the papers, it's not work that I've done, is related to your digital literacy skill, self-efficacy, satisfaction, promote well-being, and special efforts. What I come up with the end of my lecture, that special efforts should be made in promoting digital literacy. And as I showed from the research results, that people who do not own, that most of the efforts should be made on knowing how to use digital technologies in a smart, meaningful way, and not only knowing how to operate those technologies where young people are good at. So I hope I leave you with some fresh ideas you couldn't think before. Thank you.